Shimo, Kol Kodashim, Bal Malakutio, Nimi Bereka King Bev Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Yam Tov, Shalom King, Gamli, Shabu Bakasha. Our readings from Torah during the high holy day of Sukkot, whether it is on Shabbat, Hayanach, or on another day, we'll always focus on chapters 22 and 23 in the book of Vayikra. When it comes to the Maftir, it will come from the book of Bamidbar, chapter number 29. And the Haftorah, again, is going to be found in the book of Zechariah, chapter 14. So this becomes our primary focus again on this day, because this is the first day, again, of Sukkot. And we observe this even on, again, Shabbat Vayanak. So we want to return to the book of Vayikra, chapter 23. And again, our focus is upon how we unfold, again, Sukkot in the exile. Now, of course, everyone is aware that we are in the fourth exile. This is the last exile before we reach Hamachshava Ha'Elyona, that is the goal of creation. And at this time, again, when we look at the unfoldment of Sukkot, Sukkot becomes, again, a prophecy that is, again, drama in nature. Drama in nature. It signifies to us, again, the idea that we are to be in movement out here in the exile. And in particular, this movement is going to give rise to, again, the entire earth being filled with the knowledge of the Creator. So I want to read from this, and then I want to talk about the nature of this, And that nature is going to be Zavah. The term Zavah means army, an army. So we're not simply just moving as a community. That's not the right perspective. We move in this as an army, and so we want to focus on, again, the nature of this, again, being that of what you would call the military. It's a militia. It's important to understand that although we are here and we are not using weapons of destruction, we are using effective speech, prophecy, in order to affect, again, the goal of creation. So let's go ahead on and read from chapter 23, beginning at verse number 33. And what it says here, it says, Ikar spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, On the 15th day of this 7th month is the festival of Sukkot, a 7-day period for Ikar. On the first day it is a holy convocation. You shall not do any laborious work. For a 7-day period you shall offer a fire offering to Ikar. On the 8th day there shall be a holy convocation for you, and you shall offer a fire offering to Ikar. It is an assembly. You shall not do any laborious work. So again, when we look at this, this is the instructions that we had when we were in, again, Bamidbar, in the wilderness. In the wilderness, there was no need to, again, structure a sukkah. because we were already there. And so what we were simply told to do was that during this time, that what we would fulfill is the idea of, again, the opening with the High Holy Day in recognition of the meaning of this. And then from that situation, we would observe it for 7 days. And then, of course, what we'll discover later on, and that is on the 8th day, we would conclude this. And so again, it's important to understand that there were specific instructions that were given to us while we were in Bar Midbar, or in the exile. And then when you move to verse number 38 or 39, then what you're going to be looking at that particular point are instructions that we are to unfold when we are in Eretz Yisrael. So we need to be clear with that. Why we have two different levels of instruction. And again, as we shared with you on last night, that because this is an eternal decree, then it is transcendental in nature, and so there will be even yet another expansion, and that expansion is what is described to us in the book of Zechariah. And so let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter number 14. Now again, it's important to understand that what we are doing with this is we are mastering the world of absolute. That is the speaking world. Again, what we discover, and that is that the words that come forth from our mouths can either create chaos and darkness, or they can be light. When we talk about the nature of this army, you have to understand something about that, and that is that what we are faced with is Kav Hamidah. When we start to talk about Kav Hamidah, we're talking about the greatest darkness and chaos that we will experience right before the unfoldment, again, of Hamakshava Ha'Eliona, or the goal of creation. So it's the greatest darkness that we will experience. And again, there is no corporeal army that can deal with this. Again, when you start to talk about the darkness and the chaos, you're not going to banish it by, again, using force. That's right. Using, again, weapons that are of destruction. Again, this is why what we see when we look at the army that is, again, both in the book of Ezekiel and Yoel, that these armies are not using weapons of destruction. What they are using, again, is prophetic speaking. Prophetic speaking, because, again, this becomes the very thing that will, again, cause us to be able to enter into this next level, again, of development. And so in the book of Zechariah, and again, like I said, this is, again, the Maftir, the conclusion of, again, when we start to talk about the readings that we do. This now is the Haftorah. And it begins at verse number 1. Indeed, what we see here, and that is that there is a wisdom that was being exercised by the sages as they selected what would be read at this time. So remember what happens. We start basically with the book of Leviticus. We actually start our reading in chapter 22, but 23 is where our emphasis is placed. And then we move from there to the book of Bar Midbar, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. And then we move again to the Haftorah, and when we look at that, we look at chapter number 14, and you have to remember something. And that is that this was predetermined by the Creator to read that, but the sages themselves made sure that we would have this so that in our particular generation that we would become, again, enlightened as to the nature that we are to take on, again, as we continue our journey. And again, that nature is that of Zavah, or an army. Again, notice how it says it. Verse number 1. Behold, a day is coming for a car, when your spoils will be divided up in your midst. I will gather all nations to Jerusalem for war. So the thing to understand again concerning this unfoldment is that the unfoldment is not, again, of any other nature than that of warfare. Warfare. That's very important to understand that. I know that, again, when we start to talk about Kav Hamidah, then what we'll say is that it is the Jewish people, it is Israel that has a responsibility of aiding in the transformation of the darkest of things. But to understand the nature of this is very important, because the nature of it is not just simply sitting down and just educating people, but the nature of this is that of warfare. Warfare. This is why we see that at this time what is going to occur is that there is an army that's raised up, that's moving from location to location. And so it's very important for us to understand that when you begin to understand this army, then you'll understand why it's necessary that we go through conversion. Conversion is like boot camp. It's going to teach us how to, again, behave ourselves. It's going to teach us the tools that we are to use in this in order to, again, shine light into the chaos and into the darkness. So we have to understand exactly what we're doing and the nature of this. It's not just, again, simply teachers just going out and we're going to sit somewhere in a place that is not being challenged or something of that nature right there. Not so at all. The nature of this is that of warfare. It's that of warfare. So it says, I will gather all nations to Jerusalem for war. The city will be captured. The houses will be pillaged. And the women will be violated. If you look at what's going on right now in the land, this is what's happening, but it's not happening, again, with what we call, again, weapons of destruction. It's happening because there's darkness that is on the land right now. This darkness is allowing, again, idol worship to be on the land. The darkness is not just allowing idol worship to be on the land, but we also have abominations that are being accepted that are on the land. Because the warfare, again, is not that involves, again, the raising up of an army that's going to use, again, weapons of destruction, but it's an army of light. It's an army of prophets, and this is what we are faced with at this particular time. And so we know that we begin, again, the assembling of this army here in the land of the captivities. It is in the exile that, again, we will see the preparation of the Kabbanot, the preparation of Maaser takes place here. But it takes place because we understand exactly what is going to unfold. If you remember in our reading this week, it said that if we were a people that just could simply discern, and then it said in particular, discern the end. Being able to see what is at the end, then we would not make the same mistakes that we made before. So it's our ability not to have, again, mokin dekadut, but we have to have this ability to see the end of it, and in seeing this end, we'll be able to understand what we need to implement in order to do this. And so it's very important to understand exactly what we are speaking about. We are not speaking about a Casper milk toast type of attitude where we're going to be nicey nice when we go to these places. It is the attitude that belongs, again, to those that are going to effectively speak. And understanding that we're in warfare, we win in the end, we know that. But when we talk about winning, what we're talking about is the transformation of darkness into light. It's this transformation, and it's a warfare. And so he says, again, it says the houses will be pillaged, the women will be violated, half of the city will go into exile. But the rest of the people will not be eliminated from the city. Echad will go out and do what? Wage war. Wage war. The nature of this is that of warfare. And again, in order for us to be effective, it tells us what to do. We must again structure ourselves as Zavah, as an army. So let me go ahead on and read just a little bit more, because we're supposed to read this on today. And again, it's no accident that we're talking about this. This is what is for the season. If we're going to begin to move in harmony with the energy of the season, you have to understand what this energy is. This energy is not to sit back in some type of complacency and wait for some kind of redeemer to come and to save us, but it's actually to structure ourselves again into an army that we see here. We see here. So when you talk about I'm going to be moving one with the Creator, then what you're really talking about is that I'm moving in harmony with this spirit of warfare against the darkness and the chaos that we are experiencing on the planet at this hour. And of course the warfare is going to come as we speak effectively. The sword is in our mouths. And then understand the power of prayer. The power of prayer in this. And so we have again some things that we have to begin to implement at this time. And so let's go ahead and look at the book of Yoel at this time. It's warfare. It's warfare. And we're speaking about, again, an army that has particular midot, particular qualities. I mean, and one of the greatest qualities that we see concerning this army is that it is an immortal army. It's immortal. So that gives me the concept, again, that as we begin to move, we move through challenges that cause us to unfold the immortality that is hidden on the inside of us. We need the challenges. Again, we looked at this earlier in the week, and that is that the challenges are designed for the purpose of manifesting the Creator. If we're going to manifest the Creator, we're manifesting the potential that is hid on the inside of us. And so it has to be warfare. It has to be warfare. In the book of Yoel, let's go read. Chapter number 2 again. It says, blow the shofar in Sion, and sound the trumpet on my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Echad has come. It is near. It is a day of darkness, thick darkness. It's chaos. Chaos. A cloud of thick cloud, spreading over the mountains like the dawn. A numerous and mighty people. Its like has not been from eternity, and after it there will never be again until the years of generation after generation. The reason why this is so, and again what we learned from the book of Ezekiel, and that is that this army is a resurrected army. So when you talk about its likeness, you're talking about a group of people that have underwent, again, what we call reincarnation. But the reason why they're not like they used to be is because of what the process of reincarnation is about. It's about perfection. In other words, I keep coming back in order to reach the goal of creation. And so this group reaches it first. And because we reach this goal, again, we're never needed again. It's a generation like us that you have never seen before. We've never seen anything like this. Not in all of our history. So that we don't have anything that we can pattern ourselves after. Again, what we have to do is we have to ascend into Zaire Anpin and understand what the voice is, because the voice is what will be uttered before us. And as it is uttered before us and we move in harmony with that, then we will begin to cause this darkness, this chaos, again, to be transformed into light. But it's through effective speaking. The things that we are seeing at this particular time, and it's all of it. All of it may seem like a garden of Eden to you, but it's not. It's darkness. We've been banished out of that. It may look good to you. The capitalism or whatever you're dealing with out here that brings you a sense of pleasure. Or brings you a sense of the unfoldment of a dream. It's all an illusion. It's the delusion of the mind itself. And until we understand, and the only way we will understand is by causing the darkness to vanish and see what truly is then we'll never realize where we are right now. And that is, we're still in the midst of chaos. Doesn't make any difference how much you got. It doesn't make any difference if you live 1,000 years, you are still in chaos. It may just look otherwise to you because of the way that you are defining this. So now we no longer dream the dreams of the Creator. We no longer have those types of vision as a whole, but we have individual visions. We have visions again of destruction and delusion. Visions of the ego, and we can tell that we have this because it causes darkness on the planet, and we're in a place now where everybody is at everybody else's throat, just trying to satisfy themselves. This must be banished. It must be banished, and it takes warfare to banish this. You can't sit back and be gentle. You can't sit back and be slow. This requires moving in harmony with the energy that has been released at this season. There is a different energy. It's a different energy. Notice what it says here. Before the fire consumes and after it flame scorches. Before the land was like the Garden of Eden, but remember, that's the delusion. That's the delusion right there. That's the delusion. People thinking, because they cannot see above the 5 senses, that this is great. This is the greatest place to be, or something of that nature right there. You're missing something. This must be destroyed. This must be dissolved. This is, again, ta'uta'im. This is the delusion of the mind. And it takes an army of people to banish this. This is why we see this here. It goes on, before the fire consumes, after it a flame scorches. Before it the land was like the Garden of Eden, but after it a desolate desert. There is no remnant from it. Like the appearance of horses is its appearance. Like the horsemen, so do they run. With a noise like chariots, they leap upon the mountaintops. Leap upon the mountaintops. Like a sound of a flaming fire consuming straw. Like a mighty people arrayed for battle. People tremble before it. All faces become blackened. They run like mighty men. They scale the wall like men of war. Everyone goes in his set way. They do not corrupt their paths. There's a formation to this. This is why we're talking about formation when we pray. And you got to remember what the law is. As above, so below. So what do? We have 3 columns. 3 columns. If we have a minion or 10, then we have 3 columns with 1 in front. If we have 5, then we got to do something like this. And that is, we have to have 2, then 3. But we got to understand how to function now, so that we become effective. Don't fool yourself. A lot of times people say, well, you know, that don't make no sense. Faith ain't never made sense. It just simply means that things are being made possible. It ain't never made sense. And it'll never make sense to the person that is moving in the ego. But again, it's the formation. We have to understand formation. If we have 12, how do we stand? That type of thing. It's very important. How do we get to the place to make the formation? Don't forget when Jehoshaphat inquired of the prophet. What did he say? He said, put the priest up front first. And let there be song on the way. We're not just coming to those spots bare, but we're coming to those spots with a song. We have to have a song that we can march to. And then when we get to the place, and then not complain, but simply begin to pray. And to pray in that place until we connect to the energy that is there, and then bring it higher. We are an army. We have to understand that. A lot of times we will, again, get worried about logistics. That is, what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to drink, or something like that. Let me say something to you. It's always the responsibility of the country to provide logistics for its people. But again, what that country is going to provide logistics for is an army that's effective. Why would I give all of this to an army that's not effective.
That's right. That's right.
It's important to understand where we're coming from right now. I'm not standing before you again simply as Rabbi, but I'm standing before you as Moshe, the prophet, that is here to deliver the word that will take us again into the higher levels of consciousness and unfold again the goal of creation itself. This is what it's about. It goes on to say, let's read some more. It says, they run like mighty men, they scale the wall like men of war. Everyone goes in his set way. We have to get rid. This is why this season was so important, because you got to get rid of stuff that divides us. We can't be divided in this. We have to move in a corporate consciousness. We have to understand that right there. It goes on to say, it says that they shall not corrupt their paths. A man does not press his fellow. Each one walks his course. That's a formation. Let me tell you something, a lot of times people, they like to join themselves to things that seem to be chaotic. But I tell you what, you let some people come marching with some structure. Right. And watch the power of that. It causes the chaos to collapse. It causes, again, the anarchy or something of that nature right there to stand back and to look at this. Wait a minute. There's something about this that is inviting. We have a uniform. There's something about this that is inviting. I see people as one. Something that I'm not seeing here. Yes. Man does not press his fellow. Each one walks in his course. They fall upon the sword, but are not wounded. Yes. This is a corporate consciousness now. That consciousness that has entered, again, into the higher levels where we experience the deathless one. So it doesn't tell us that it's some kind of corporeal army. This is why we're told things like he will be our shelter. Isn't that our energy this week? Our energy is what? Somebody tell me what it is.
I can say it in Hebrew. I can say it in English.
Say it in English. Cain. And then what we read in, again, the valley of decision, that there we are untouchable. Again, this is being confirmed in this. Nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what the Creator has predetermined. What we have to do is we have to begin to continue our ascension into the energy. And that energy, again, is that of Zavah, an army, not just a corps of teachers is coming, but an army. Goes on to say, they stride in the city, they run on the wall, they ascend into houses, they come through windows like a thief. It's covering everything, y'all. Everything. Before the land trembles, the heavens quake, the sun and the moon become darkened, and the stars withdraw their shine. You know why? Because you're bringing in a higher light. Higher light. If you remember, it said it started out like, the Garden of Eden, is being destroyed. Well, you're talking about the light that we have that produces this right now. The light that comes now is brighter than the sun and of the stars. We have to understand that. What we are bringing ain't been seen. We see by way of the light that's in the sky, not by this light. We have to understand there's an army that brings this. And this is what causes the banishing of all of that we see, that we think is great, that we hold on to, that we want to live in eternally. Verse number 11. God has admitted his voice before the advent of his army. This is his army. When we start to talk about his voice, we know what that is. That's coming from Zaire Anpin. We're moving in harmony with what the prophets are seeing. It's important to understand that because the people come, and the people come for a particular reason, and that is to fulfill this. We're not here to do our own thing. If you're not disciplined enough, you will do your own thing in this. And what you'll discover is that you will simply be put out the army. You get a dishonorable discharge, whatever that means. But again, it's important to understand all this other stuff is over now.
Yeah.
We have to do it in harmony with this. For his camp is very numerous. There are 600,000 that failed the first time. We don't fall this time. For the day, for those that carry out his what? His word. We ain't talking about carrying guns, weapons, but carrying the very thing that unfolded this. And that is the word. And that is the word of the Creator.
Yeah.
Nothing ought to be in your mouth but that. Nothing. Because everything else is darkness. Nothing. Goes on to say, for the day of God is great and very awesome. Who will be able to bear it? Now another thing that we start reading at this time of the year is again from Bamidbar. And Bamidbar talks about the offerings that we bring during Sukkot. So, we start out, and then we kind of decrease every day. But these offerings, you're going to read something very powerful. I'm not going to take time to try to read all of this today. But that is that whenever an army that belongs to the Creator goes in and takes spoils, those spoils belong to the Creator. And the spoils that we take in this are the offerings of individual souls that will go to the Creator. So let me just read a little bit from Bamidbar chapter 29. We're here to take spoils. Don't fool yourself. If you remember, when we saw again in the book of Bamidbar, and we saw the time where they began to war against Ammon and Midian, Moab. They had the priests in front, didn't they? The priests were in front there. Again in the day of Yehoshaphat, who was in front? One of the priests. And when they saw the light, they just simply dropped everything. They left the spoils behind and ran. We have to understand what we're doing. We have to structure. You say, how do we structure? We ascend into the energy that I'm speaking about. We have to understand. Remember what it says in Ha'ah Zenu is that if we would have understood the end, we wouldn't have did what we did. Now we get to understand the end so we can correct this.
Yes.
Chapter 29, verse 12. This becomes, again, the conclusion that we read on the first day. It says, on the 15th day of the 7th month, there shall be a holy convocation for you. You shall do no laborious work. You shall consecrate a festival to a God for a 7-day period. But then it starts talking about offerings. You shall offer burnt offering, fire offering, satisfying aroma to the God, 13 bulls, 2 rams, 14 male lambs in the first year. They shall be unblemished. Their meal offering, fine flour mixed with fire, with oil, 3/10 ephah for each bull of the 13 bulls, 2/10 ephah for each ram of the 2 rams, 1/10 ephah for each lamb, 14 lambs, 1 male of the goats for a sin offering, aside from the continual burnt offerings with all its meal offering and libation. So we're told to bring these offerings. But when you start to equate this, again, to what an army is doing, again, what you see an army do that's sent by the Creator is once it gets its spoils, it places the spoils before the Creator first. Does that first. Now watch what it says about us. Let's go to Isaiah 66. Just want to stick with it. Again, the energy right now. Understand. Shabbat. Shabbat. What it means. And why there's a certain discipline that we would exercise now. That we no longer, again, take a causal attitude to what we're doing. Just getting by. We got to move beyond this. If you want to move with the energy, you have to understand the discipline. Why boot camp? Why all this before we get started? Why can't we just do it the way that we were? It's impossible. What we have to understand is we have specific instructions that would not be understood until this time. We keep reading it, we read it, not understanding. And then all of a sudden the light will start shining because the energy is now. It's now. It's formation now. It's understanding that. When we go out there tonight, for a while all we did was sit around the table when we did our prayers. Not no more. We do them in formation. For a while, all we did was we waved lulav around the table. Not no more. We do it in formation. What we do must elevate us into Zavah. It must. Cannot do anything else and think that we will succeed. We must fulfill what it says here. Chapter 66. We read this so often. Verse 18 says, I know their actions and their thoughts. The time has come to gather all nations and tongues. They will come and see my visible manifestation. Whether they're seeing it in form of a formation that belongs again to spirituality, or whether they see the miracles again of the blind and the lame, they will see the visible manifestation of the Creator because we will fulfill what this word says. When He utters, we will move, and we know what our movement will take us to. It will take us to the higher levels of the soul, Yakita. It'll take us to Eretz Yisrael. This is the way that we go. And when we get there, remember what will happen. All will benefit. Those that are there, that are under the chaos and under the darkness, that's causing them to experience things that are not in harmony with the prophet said that they would see. Who do you think banishes this? And what we use, again, it don't make sense. Simply makes faith. And in faith, that is imuna lamala, min hada'ah, faith that is above reasoning, we will unfold this mission. One mission. One mission. But we unfold this mission now. I shared with many of you that a few years back I saw us, but I saw us before we came through the birth canal. And we were standing there ready to come through the birth canal as an army there. But we started coming through at different points in time. But it's now that we're together. And again, this final generation is there. That's what makes it final. It's not that it's the end of generations. It's just the end of all of this chaos. The end of all of this darkness. It must go. It must go. And just like our Abba did, it went through speaking. It must go. They will come and see my glory. I will put a sign upon them. I will send some of them as survivors to the nations. Tarshish, Pul, Lud, the Archers, Tubal, Yavan, and distant lands who have not heard of my fame and not seen my glory. We don't just stop here. We got to keep going until the 42 journeys are completed. They are global in nature. Global. It's an army that belongs again to the heavens. It's the greatest army that has ever been. And this army annexes or assimilates either one, the entire situation. Yes. It's not just sitting back, I'm telling you, and using a lot of rhetoric. There's action and energy that we must connect to. It says there, it says, and they will declare my glory among the nations. They will bring all your brethren. That's the end game. From all the nations as an offering to Echad. That ain't happened. Oh yeah, some went, but not all the brethren. Why? Because we come to do this. Yeah. It's our responsibility. It's the army that does this. We do it. Why? Because that's the spoils. They're held in captivity. The captivity of darkness, the captivity of the ego, they're held in those places. Yeah. But we come to shine light into these prisons. Yeah. Light into these dark places. Light into all the problems that's going on to bring them out. This is who we are. Yeah. We must tap into this energy. It's not time to be tired now. They will bring all your brothers from all the nations as what? An offering. That's why it makes reference to us as an army, because when an army gets done slaughtering, then it brings all of its spoils and it brings it to Echad. It takes it there. It takes it there. With horses and with chariots and with covered wagons, with mules, with joyous dancing. If you understand that right there, it's talking about the way that we interpret Torah. At different levels. To my holy mountain. We know that we don't stop here. We don't stop till we get home. We don't stop till then. We don't put our minds on just the ignorant lands. We put our minds on Jerusalem. We move. It goes on to say, it says, just as the children of Israel bring the offerings in a pure vessel to the house of Echad. Yeah. From them too I will take men to be Kohanim and Levites. Don't worry about whether or not they're going to recognize you. They're going to recognize the army. Yes. They're going to recognize that right there. They can say what they want to, but you know what? Titles drop off if you ain't doing what you ought to be doing. Yes, right. They drop off. Right. And again, we are known by what we do. Yes. Not by what folk call us. They might call us some of anything right now. But watch us for a while. Right. See how we continue to organize. See how we we continue to structure.
Yeah. Right.
Begin to see the glory of the Creator being made manifest in us.
Yeah.
We are those that are like none other that have come before.
Yeah.
And we have to understand this. It goes on to say, it says, Echad. Now you know if he said it, he can't lie.
Right.
It can't return unto him void.
Right.
It has to happen.
Yeah.
You can say, well, they should have came from, again, the biological lineage or something like that. But consider who spoke this. Consider the power of what he speaks. And then understand that he will utter his voice before his army. And we are invincible. Invincible. Can't be stopped.
Yeah.
For just as the new heavens and the new earth that I will make will endure before me the word of God, so shall your offspring and your name endure. This is us. This is us. It's essential that we understand. Now let me say something. You might feel like when you start this march that you've given up everything. But you gaining everything now. You gaining everything. You gaining something that when you fall on the sword, it can't take you out. So how's something going to take you out?
That's right.
How's that going to happen? If I fall on a sword, it doesn't take me out. Oh, then something like, something else will come along and take me out. No. When he speaks, it does not return to him void.
Yes.
It accomplishes what he has sent it to accomplish.
Yeah.
Now the time has come. The energy is here now. What we do is simply embody the instructions so that we can again fulfill this word. We're here for that reason. When we get done, it won't have to be done on this planet anymore. Now, but don't forget, there's other planets. Don't forget that either. Purposes do not change. They are immutable. They're not subject to change. We're that army. You have to realize that. If you can put that in your mind, in the forefront of your mind, then everything that we go through will seem like nothing. Won't seem like anything. It's important for us to understand. Nehalel-yo.
Hallelujah.
Nehalel-yo.
Hallelujah.
Nehalel-yo.
Hallelujah.
Am Yisrokai.
Am Yisrokai.
Am Yisrokai.
Am Yisrokai.
Am Yisrokai.
Am Yisrokai.
Be'ahava ve'shimka ve'shalom.